Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk about standing up for yourself, basically, against people who are rather narcissistic. These days, I think people have exchanged, many people, not all, have exchanged the word abuser to narcissist, or abusive to narcissistic. Not diagnosing somebody with a personality disorder, although I think that would make it so easy. It would make it easy. Okay, there's much more to it than they just have symptoms or traits, characteristic, anything like that. But yeah, and this video is about standing up to them. When do you? How do you? And I have mentioned some of this before when I used to do everyday, kind of videos on everyday situations. And what I used to talk about a lot, I went through a really bad time, usually in the summer here in Texas, north of Dallas, in a suburb north of Dallas, that had a reputation before I even knew of the place. And I first heard of the place like 30 years ago, around 30 years ago. And it had a reputation for people being rather basically narcissistic. And it does seem to be part of the culture. Of course, it's not everybody, but it does seem thicker. Okay. And one of my solutions to the problem I was having was that, like going to anything, any store, business, whatever for, was running across people who worked there or people who were customers, both, okay, who were rather narcissistic and felt like I was somebody they could, like push out of the line, put their hands in front of my faces. Where did I get faces from? Well, then again. They put their hands in front of my face, wherever it was. Like I was going to standing there looking at something, just got up to it, was about to reach for something. They put their hand in front of my face because they wanted something first. This kind of thing. And I think that it was, I was saying that it was very important for me to find some kind of alternative, because that was felt to me like subjecting myself over and over, repeatedly, to some kind of narcissistic abuse. Some think that's very petty. I think it's very petty. But the purpose, it might be a petty situation, but the purpose behind why they do it is not petty. I keep using the word purpose wrong, but in their minds, they're superior, and therefore, they have that high sense of entitlement, and you can push anybody away. It belongs to them, so move out of my way kind of attitude. And, I've been thinking a lot about how what we do, what we're taught to do, often, not everybody, to respond to something like this is basically not to respond. And that's, some of it is because it could be dangerous. It could be physically in any other way dangerous. Abuse is not just physical. And for some, they think that it's a higher level of maturity. But in my mind, it's not always, but probably much of my life, whoa, what the hell is all that? Did you see that? Yeah. Woo, scary. Pardon the hell word. Anyway, we're taught, not to confront, not to say anything back. That gives them the supply they need, and they're looking to bother somebody. They're looking for that response. But I'm also the one to think, I agree with that to some extent. I also think that it will never, that maybe there has been too much of that, and nobody has ever corrected them. Nobody's ever checked them. Okay, now remember that they're on what some call a spectrum, I call more of a continuum. So, yeah, think about it. I didn't want y'all to suffer through my blinker so much. It's a long light. But anyway, seriously, I do think like this at times. And of course, I've already mentioned I'm more like a Xena type woman, and that becomes part of your personality. I believe, I remember when I was an undergraduate, I think, having a discussion in the class about this with the professor. She basically agreed with me. And we wrote papers, and I said that in mine, I don't know what it's like to be, like a petite woman. And, a woman that, how is it? That people aren't afraid of you. People are afraid of me, let me put it that way. Because of my height and my size, and I've got a strong body. And my whole life, people have been afraid of me since I was like 12 years old. You know, some of you know the story there. Wow, 12 was such a year for me. But I don't know what it's like for the other side of that too, is for somebody to treat somebody like, you know, a woman like a princess, or, you know, fragile object, because I'm definitely not. And anyway, so that becomes part of your personality. And I wrote, you know, in that paper that, you know, even though I don't feel it, I don't think it all the time, I don't use it, but yeah, people are afraid of me. They're intimidated by me often, not everybody, of course. And it's all, both males and females, you know, both of them can be intimidated by me. And so I have that in me more to, I don't fear as much, okay? You're just like somebody smarts off at me or something in a grocery store. I don't have a fear. Unless I see them packing, I don't have a fear. You know, I'll just tell them how I call it as I see it. But that's part of me. I'm also Texan. That's kind of that is a stereotype, but yeah, I just don't have it, and some people would. And yes, I know that it's dangerous to stand up to people. That's why I keep saying that, you know, to some degree. But I still feel that way. I still feel like, you know, where I grew up, if you didn't stand your ground, you didn't stand up for yourself, you were called a wimp. Plain and simple, wimp. I'm not a wimp. And I don't think people who don't stand up like that are wimps. I don't think they are. It's to each their own in this, to me. But I do think that telling people not to, as if, no, you know, period, don't stand up to a bully. And what is it teaching the bully? And what is it teaching the person who's standing up for them? No self-defense. Self-defense isn't just physical. The gist of what I'm saying is, like, don't tell anybody how they should respond to anything, you know, in something like this, okay? You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know the situation, you don't know the person, you don't know, do you really know what the outcome to that would be? If everybody just said, okay, I am so totally, I don't know what that car's doing, so totally, you know, I know the answer. Do you always play gray rock? You always go no contact. You always, you know, leave, whatever. Telling somebody just to leave, you know, person, that can be very dangerous for them then. Just as dangerous as it can be for them to stay. So who are you to tell them to leave? A counselor wouldn't even tell them to leave. Police might tell them to leave. Now, some counselors might, and some police wouldn't. But yeah, it's usually somebody like the law, you know, if they're having to tell them to leave. But you hear this quite often as people say, you know, some people, and it's never all, and for me, they will say, you know, just leave. Yeah, the danger you could be putting people in. I've said this so many times, and I've saying it so many times for big reasons, you see. This is definitely stream of consciousness. But yeah, it also can make people feel really bad who can't leave. You know, think of somebody who's been isolated and they have children, and they don't have any access to the bank account, and they have a spouse who's abusive, and they can't leave, and they try to find resources for homeless shelters and stuff like that, and they couldn't. They don't have any way to get out of there. Whatever it is, a situation, nobody has the exact same situation, okay? Different people, different problems. And so it can make them feel like they're even more, they're whatever negative it is. I don't want to even say. They can make them feel really bad in whatever way, because they're not doing as people think they should, just so easily. You see? Okay, perfect timing for this one too. I went into that store, and a few things about it, because I don't go very often. What actually? But anyway, and a woman older than I, she walked around the corner, and I'm standing there, and just got there looking for something, and just as I say, she put her whole body in front of mine. I was like, oh my goodness, really? That is just too. It's happened before though. High sense of entitlement and narcissism, their first narcissistic behaviors. To me. Anyway, I think I should wrap this one up. Talk to you on another video.